Welcome to our brand new guide to TOEFL Speaking question number 3. Now, if you haven't heard already, the TOEFL test has changed. As of August 1st, 2019, they've actually changed the speaking section of the test. So today, we're going to go through the new TOEFL Speaking question number 3. And here's what you're going to know by the end of this lecture. We're going to go through one question walkthrough of the new question 3. We're going to go over a note-taking strategy so you know how to take notes. We're going to do one speaking template, one example response, one grading checklist, 4 exclusive tricks and tips, and 1 free and complete TOEFL test that you can practice as well so you can actually experiment with this style at home. So my name is Josh McPherson. I am the head instructor at TST Prep, where our mission is simple: to help you get the TOEFL score you need as quickly and easily as possible. And today, it's all about TOEFL Speaking question number 3. So let's get right into it. Now, the TOEFL, like I said, has changed. And here's how it's changed. In the past, there were 6 questions, and now there are 4 questions. 1 independent question and 3 integrated questions. If you know about the past test, this question will look very familiar. Question number 3 in the past used to be question 4. All right, so this is the new question 3. Now, what does question 3 look like? Here's a quick rundown of what it looks like. It's an academic reading and lecture. There is an academic topic, and then that is introduced in a reading, and then you listen to a lecture about the reading. You'll have 50 seconds to read. The lecture takes about 90 seconds. You'll have 30 seconds to prepare, and then 60 seconds to speak about what you read about and what you heard in the lecture. The reading and listening will be about the same topic. The listening will be a lecture explaining the reading. So, the big thing for you here is that you want to remember to think like a teacher. So imagine you have to teach this topic to a 10-year-old. Now, I'm kind of giving you a lot of information at once, so this will be more clear. This will be clearer, as we move forward. But one thing I want you to know is that basically you're going to get a passage about a topic you probably don't know about. Let's say, for example, one that we have in our TOEFL test is about swarm intelligence. Now, maybe you have no idea what swarm intelligence is. That's okay. Your job is to read the passage, listen to the lecture about the passage, about the topic, and then speak about it for 60 seconds. And you want to speak like you're a teacher trying to explain this. That's pretty much the idea here. All right, so that's question 3 in a nutshell, but we'll talk about it more. So there are a lot of different question topics and types, so it's hard to predict, but here are some common question topics are in the fields of biology, psychology, business, and history and art are the most common topics. And this is how you're going to respond. This is what you want to think about. So when you're reading, you want to identify and define the topic. So let's say it's swarm intelligence. You want to identify that and define it. And then you're going to listen to a lecture about the topic. And the lecture will probably be some example of the topic, and so you understand the topic's real-world application, its real-world example. And you report about the topic and elaborate, which means explain about it. Again, this will be made clearer in a minute, so let me explain a little bit more here. So here's an example of a TOEFL question from one of our tests here, and this is one that you can download for free in the description. Now, this is about swarm intelligence, like I mentioned before. When you see this passage on the TOEFL, you'll have about 50 seconds to read it. You can take some notes. We'll talk about that in a minute. Another example here is about habit formation. Now, this is something from psychology. Swarm intelligence is something from biology. So this is just another example of a type of passage that you'll get. And then the question is almost always similar. Using the examples from the lecture, explain the concept of swarm intelligence. Using the examples of the lecture, explain the concept of habit formation. Using the examples from the lecture, explain the topic of, and whatever the topic is. So it's almost always the same question, question number 3. Now, when you're reading the passage, let's talk about your note-taking strategy now. So this is about taking notes. When you're reading the passage, you want to find the topic and the definition for that topic. That's the most important thing you want to find. And if you can find any additional notes, you have some time, write down those additional notes. But this is the most important thing. Here, for swarm intelligence, I've highlighted in yellow the topic, which is swarm intelligence. One good thing about question 3 is the title is usually the topic. Okay, so all you have to do is look at the title and you'll probably know what the topic is. And then your job is to find the definition. What does this mean? What does swarm intelligence mean? It's what I've highlighted in green here. These insects do not work individually, but as a collective in order to create a kind of superbrain, which is usually referred to as swarm intelligence. So sometimes they give you the definition right in the beginning, the first sentence. Sometimes it's in the middle, sometimes it's at the end. So it used to almost always be in the beginning, but it's kind of changed lately. So you might have to read a little bit to find out what the topic is really about. What does this mean? Okay, so try to practice making sure that you can read all this in 50 seconds and take a couple notes. The parts that I've highlighted in blue are the extra notes. If I have extra time, I'll write this stuff down as well. And this is what my notes look like. The topic is swarm intelligence. And if you notice, I don't spell the words correctly. So don't worry about spelling. You just want to write down enough so you understand what it is. I understand that means swarm intelligence, so that's okay for me. The definitions, it's hundreds of organisms working together to benefit a group. Ants, bees, wasps, termites, they work collectively. These are just some extra notes that I had time to write. And again, you probably don't have time to write all this. I took my time to prepare this presentation. If you only write down 10 words, you're probably not going to have more than 15 words, enough to write, because it's hard to read and write notes at the same time. So don't worry too much about writing down all the little details. Just make sure you understand the topic and you know what it means. That's the most important thing. You don't even have to take notes. You understand the topic and you know what it means. That's it. Most important thing from the reading, because that's going to help you understand the listening, which comes next. So again, your notes are not as important as comprehension. Understand first, write second. Understand the passage, understand the definition, then worry about your notes. All right, so make sure you do that first. When you're writing down your notes for the listening, usually the listening is a couple of examples of the reading passage. So for example, swarm intelligence. Probably they'll give one example of ants and how they use swarm intelligence, and then they'll use another example of bees and how they use swarm intelligence. That's very common. Sometimes it's a long example, like for example, the topic I shared before about habit formation. It might be a professor talking about his own habits and giving a long example of a habit he had. That's another type of format of question number 3. But more common is this type, where they give you a topic and then they will give you 2 examples of it. And this is most common for biology stuff. If there's something about psychology, imagine that it's a story from a professor that's connected to this. Okay, so here are my notes. This is what I'm going to look for. And this is the transcript here. And again, you could see this in the complete test that you can download in the description. But basically, I highlighted the parts that's the example, and then the green is like extra stuff that if I have time, I'll write it down. And it's the same here. That the yellow part about honeybees, they organize in masses of individuals. Okay, that's the topic. And then the green stuff is extra information that I can write down. I'm not going to write down all this. This is a ton of information, okay? I'm just highlighting the important points that you should try to write down. Don't have to write down everything. And here are my notes. Now again, these notes are pretty detailed. You don't have to write it like this. This is just an example. And also remember, I had time to write this out. So don't get too stressed out if you can't write the same notes. Totally understandable, okay? All right, so you can look at this in more detail if you want. You could pause this video, but I'm not going to go into too much with this. But this is just an example of my notes so you can see it. Now, when you're preparing your response, this is what you want to do, is that you want to start with the reading. You want to introduce the topic and define it. And then you want to state the first example and talk about it. You want to state the second example and talk about it, and then you have a conclusion. Pretty simple. So here's an example of a question 3 template. You can use this template to answer most speaking question number 3 questions. And I've included the content and the time as well, so you can see about how much time you should have when you talk about each part of your response. And so let me just show you what this looks like in action. That's the best way to kind of figure out how to use this. And I'll just read the first half of this. According to the reading, so I start with the reading, right? So according to the reading, swarm intelligence is when a bunch of different insects of the same species are able to combine and connect their thoughts so hundreds of individuals can think and act as one. In the lecture, the professor delves deeper into this subject by providing 2 examples of swarm intelligence. So now I'm moving from the reading to the listening pretty quickly. To start, the lecture explains that ants use this type of thinking when gathering food. One group of ants will find a way to the food source and release pheromones to mark the trail. Other ants will then follow the pheromone scent. Okay, so I basically say the one example and a couple of sentences about it, a couple of details. Not a lot, but a little bit. All right, so you want to talk about the reading not too long, probably about 20 seconds, at most 30 seconds, and the rest you want to talk about the listening part. The listening is where you kind of bring everything together, so try to talk more about the listening if you took good notes. I know sometimes it's hard to do that. But this is, the ideal, perfect passage. Don't worry if yours isn't the same. I don't expect it to be the same, and neither should you. It's just an example. All right? Now, after you give your response, time to look at your response and give it a grade. So let's look at the tools for actually grading your response. So this is the information from ETS, the company that makes the TOEFL. I've offered a simplified translation of it, but besides the general description, there's 3 grading criteria, which is delivery, language use, and smoothness. Delivery is how confident you are and how natural you sound. Language use is about the vocabulary and grammar you use, and it sounds natural and conversational. And notice how I use the word natural a lot. Really, you want to sound just like you're talking to a friend. Topic development, you have a beginning, middle, end, and you have a story in mind that you're going towards, right? Now, this is not so helpful to help you grade. That's why we provided this checklist as well. I'll run through it really quickly with you that you can use to record your own responses and check them. So definitely record your speaking. Everybody hates their own voice. I know, I hate my own voice. I thought my voice was very deep and cool until I recorded it, and it's not. So record your voice and check it using this checklist. I'll run through it really quickly. Did I speak for 57 to 60 seconds? You don't want to have too much silence, and you don't want to speak over time. You want that kind of sweet spot there, about 58, 59 seconds. Was my introduction 15 seconds or less? Try to keep your introduction short and sweet, to the point. Did I have enough time to include a short conclusion? Yeah, 7 seconds or less. Doesn't have to be very long, and it's not necessary. It's just a nice way to end. It makes you sound like you're confident and comfortable speaking. Did I look at the clock to monitor my time at least twice? Yeah, so you want to look at the clock to make sure that you're not going over time. And one great way to do that is to actually look at the clock. So a lot of students are scared of the clock. The clock is your friend. Take a look at it at least twice. Did I include at least 2 transitional words and phrases? So words like in the reading passage, in the listening passage, according to the lecturer, according to the author, to sum up, in conclusion. These are all transition words that help organize your response. Did I speak at a smooth and even pace for the majority of my response? So you try not to say, okay. Everybody does that. If you say it too much, though, then it sounds like you're not confident and it kind of hurts your score. The next one, number 7, did I speak in a natural and conversational tone? So no robot voice, yeah. Make sure that you don't say, according to the reading passage, blah, 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 according to the listening, blah, blah. You want to sound natural and conversational. According to the reading, according to the listening, try to sound like you're talking to a friend at a coffee shop. Very important. And did you include all the essential, all the important information from the reading and listening? So crucial to make sure that you include everything that they want to hear from both of those passages. And hopefully you have a good idea of how to do that now, at this point. And some 4 last minute quick tips is speak mostly about the listening. Most of your information should be from the listening passage. So I would say try to speak at least, let's say, 30 seconds, about 30 seconds about the listening passage. And then the second tip is to speak with interest and enthusiasm. Imagine you love this topic, it's your favorite topic, you can't wait to talk about it with everybody. Even though you're probably not that interested in the topic, sound like you are, because that enthusiasm is going to help you kind of show how natural you feel speaking English. That's very important. And then record your responses. Definitely don't forget to record your responses and judge your responses based on those recordings. It's going to give you a lot of information about your speaking and about your strengths and weaknesses. Don't forget to use the checklist as well. And then last but not least, don't read your notes. So a lot of students, when they take notes, they take good notes and they want to use their notes. But the problem is that they tend to read their notes. And your reading voice is different than your speaking voice. When you're speaking to somebody and looking them in the eye, your voice changes. When you're reading words on a page, it changes. So make sure you try to tap into that experience of looking somebody in the eye and speaking. Okay, so yeah, don't forget, definitely download our complete test somewhere in the description and actually practice these questions at home. Thank you guys so much for staying with me. Again, go to our site, tstprep.com, for more of this kind of TOEFL stuff. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. All right, take care.